An error occurred. Wait a moment, then try again. Okay, hold on a second. Hi, everyone. Welcome to 30 Minutes with Spyglass Lending. Today is an awesome day. I've got an amazing guest, a very good friend. I've known him a long time. He's an incredible developer, Rob Diaz of Rob Diaz Design. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to give you a chance to say hello, and then I'm going to tout the hell out of you. Go ahead. You start.
What's up, Aaron? Good morning. Thank you for having me, man.
Good morning to you. And I got to tell the viewers, anybody watching and anybody who's going to watch this in the future, you got to understand who this man is. He is responsible for a lot of what's gone on in the San Fernando Valley and Hollywood Hills. I think you have set an incredibly high bar, and you have a lot of developers benchmarking what you've done or even tried to replicate what you do, but can't even come close. You are always setting new sales records. What you have done in a lot of your properties, and I've walked through so many of them. I'm always blown away, and especially the last few, you've really stepped it up a notch. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. But let's just start with who you are and your story. I mean, where are you from, and how did you even get into development and design of your properties?
Well, where do I start, man? It's been a long road. From LA, born and raised. So I'm in my backyard in Studio City. Went to high school out here and spent a little bit of time in the city. Um, I like a lot of people enjoyed my 20s a little bit too much, and was sort of on the brink of turning 30 and was having one of those aha moments. And a friend of mine was doing corporate real estate bank appraisals, single family residential and 1 to 4 unit. And
Give us a time frame. What year are we talking about?
we're talking 2000, last part of 2005.
Right. So like we're gonna set the we're gonna set the arena here. 2005, the height of the subprime market, the real estate market is
That's how we met.
That's exactly how we met.
That's
And it's
right.
on fire at that point, right? Like
That's right.
prices
Yeah.
going up by the minute, let alone the week or the month.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's a wonderful time to be in real estate and lending at that time, thinking like this is just gonna go on forever.
Sure. Yeah. I remember you. I remember Andrew. I remember, guys like I can't ever forget like guys like Otis Felder.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Good old
10
oldest.
times a day. Like,
Yeah.
remember the days of mortgage brokers getting comp checks from appraisals and, us, accommodating. And so anyways, I did that for a while. I ended up meeting up with a really good guy who owned a pretty big appraisal company. Back
Yeah.
then he had like 20 trainees. They'd bring you along, take half your money, and teach you a trade.
Mhm.
And I thought that was a good trade. So I got my real estate appraisal license. I looked at him and said, "Now what?" And he took out a Thomas guide and put a red marker down Wilshire Boulevard from like basically Trader Vic's all the way through K-Town.
Okay.
That there's a million brokerage shops on that street. I suggest you go and feed some of these war room mortgage veterans,
And it's before the days of AMC's, right? So this is like the Wild West. You didn't.
This is the Wild West,
Right. So what you're saying is you could walk into a brokerage shop, shake a hand, and be like, "Hey, hire me to be your appraiser." You can't do that these days, right? After
you
08, the
can't do that.
crash, Dodd-Frank rules, like you can't
That's right.
just go get your own. I mean, unless you're doing kind of a one-off deal or a private or hard money loan, you
Sure.
can't just go get your own appraiser. Like if you're doing a conventional loan, the lenders have to use an AMC. But back then, not the
Right.
case. Right.
Yeah, and I think the AMCs are there for a good reason. That's another story. That could be a movie.
Right. Yeah, it will be. There's
It
there's
has
more.
been.
There's going to be
It,
more being made about that for sure.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, so I met you that way. I met Andrew that way. I think I fed you guys on Monday and Fridays, and there were bagels and lox and food, and
Yeah.
so I
I
ended
put
up
on a
doing.
few pounds thanks to you, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, I ended up doing pretty well. I ended up getting a lot of business. I ended up getting uh, I got through my trainee license, and Rob Shiner. I'm sure you remember him.
Oh yeah,
He's the guy
great
that kind of
appraiser
taught.
himself.
you know, the foundations of value, right? And where that's derived. And, you know, I had some challenging appraisals and trying to measure and laser and understand, you know, 18,000 square feet in Brentwood Park and why that's more expensive than, you know, the one selling above Sunset, which I always like growing up on the West Side, you know, as a kid thinking like, oh, well, all the huge, like really rich people live north of Sunset. And like, actually the lots are smaller. So like really like, you know, getting a foundation of like Los Angeles real estate. And then, so I did that for a while. I ended up hooking up with a Beverly Hills broker. I was doing an appraisal for him and I pulled up smoking a cigarette, driving a sports car. I have tattoos, banging Beastie Boys, Tribe Called Quest. And he's like, who in the hell is this guy? I'm like, sorry, man, I'm late for your appraisal. Oh, and by the way, you're going to be $50K short. It's not worth it.
Right. He's like, even before you walk the house, right?
Like, you haven't even been inside. I'm like, I already know what it looks like.
Yeah.
And he's like, wow, I'm going to make a phone call. So he like was in the front yard. I was measuring the property, doing whatever, take a few photographs. And he's like, I think you're in the wrong business. He's like, I just saved the deal and worked it out. So his deal went through. He was like, I think you need to get into real estate. I think you need to be a salesman. I think you need to like switch careers. I was already kind of bored with appraisal. And I saw the writing on the wall with the AMCs, Cuomo in New York, the whole, you know, fair lending situation happening. And so I was like, okay. So I went and got a sales license, and he was like, yeah, you can hang it at my shop. He had a little boutique in Beverly Hills across the street from the Peninsula. And, you know, so I kind of went from the appraisal mentor and Rob Shiner to this other gentleman. And
what year are we in, by the way? Give us
now we're like 2000, late 2008 or 2009.
And this is right after the, you know, the market.
The whole shit show happened.
Yeah. Everything had come down.
This is like maybe a little bit before September of 08, which is when I think Lehman crashed, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. It was September of 08 in the big crash.
Right.
I mean, the writing was on the wall for the real estate industry starting in 2007. Obviously, I think people didn't recognize, but in the lending space, we really started to see those subprime shops starting to kind of shutter. Two double entendre, SHUDD and SHUTT. You know, both were happening in 2007, but by 8, it was like over in March and April. And then Lehman crashed in the end of 08, and everyone else in the world realized like, oh, like we're like the economics, the economy is falling off a cliff, not just the real estate market. So.
Yeah, exactly. I had a friend who was running a really big a subprime shop in Newport Beach. And he called me in 2007 because I used to do a lot of his appraisals down in Manhattan in the South Bay, Manhattan Beach, you know, Redondo, all that. And he was like, yeah, dude, I suggest you might need to find another career because we're belly up. It's a wrap. And he literally within like 14 days, they were done.
It was over. I mean, going from making just hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, millions of dollars a year.
Making millions, dude.
Yeah, I mean, these guys were making just a fortune if you owned a chop shop, mortgage brokerage shop, and certainly the loan officers, and a lot of them in their 20s who had no idea what they're doing, right? They're making money.
No idea.
At the time. At the time. But like like you said, you started as an appraiser, then all of a sudden, you met this particular broker himself who's like, come join my shop. This is right after 08. Yeah. So you're learning that side of the business, 09, 10, and being a realtor and all that. Which dovetailed at some point into you taking on development.
Yeah, basically what I had was I got my sales license, and again, you get this license, which is not hard to get. I mean, let's face it, dude. Getting a real estate sales license is like my neighbor's freaking pop quiz today was maybe a little harder. Like she's in 5th grade at Carpenter.
Not the highest barrier.
Dude, I passed both of these. I passed both of these tests with flying colors the first go round. Like college did not work out that well for me. I dropped out. Right. But anyways, so like, I got my license. I'm like, now what? I have a place to hang it. He's kind of bringing me along a little bit, but he's just like everybody else. He's only going to water what grows. Right. So action steps are everything. So I decided to go through my Rolodex. And what I had was I had about 10 to 12 wealthy guys that I had done appraisals for, and I was doing GPAR appraisals, not bank appraisals.
Explain what that is. Let's
Like,
break that down for a second.
so
What is that?
general purpose appraisal report is basically like a short narrative with a couple of columns and a couple of comps.
Right.
It's basically when a guy's paying all cash for a property and he wants to know what the after repaired value is going to be based on, okay, the house is 1,000 square feet. I'm going to make it 2,000 square feet. What's my low end? What's my median? And what's my best case scenario? So I would paint that picture for all these guys for years.
And
right?
I want to say there are few people who really have the capacity to do what you're talking about. Now, I kind of want to just bring this up, if you don't mind, for a moment, interject.
Yeah.
Because I broker a lot of hard money, flip money. I still do a lot of that. And there are the appraisers. Again, they're not part of the AMCs. You hire them, individually to do hard money, private money loans for the flippers. But they have the capacity to do what you're saying, an after repair value. Most appraisers do not have this. They can't see 2 inches past their nose and the square footage in the comps. But you had the capacity to go out and do a generalized appraisal and show an after repair value. That's a huge, huge thing. And I'm sure you'll talk about how this led to. So you know what you could do. Yeah.
I mean, there was a few deals I had told there was two brothers in Westwood. They came from a lot of money. And they had kind of gotten really screwed when all of this stuff was happening on like a 300 unit condo building.
Yeah.
And condos are the first to come and the last to go. I mean, that's what happens in down markets, right? They're the first ones to take the hit and the last ones to come back. So anyways, they got into single family space. I called them and said, hey, listen, I have a relationship with Meridius Capital out of Las Vegas. And they were giving me deals. Like, I knew somebody pretty high up there. And I was like, okay, so if we buy 5 of these things, we're going to get a discount. They're giving properties away.
You're talking about single family homes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're foreclosed on homes. They're REOs, which are bank-owned properties.
Right.
If you take 5 down at the same time, you're paying like 30 cents on the dollar. Like,
and back then that was legit. You could really pay 30 cents on the dollar. Again, REO standing for real estate owned, meaning the bank now owned the real estate owned. REO, the bank owns the
correct.
Real estate, and they just want it off their ledger. They got to get it off their books because they're not in the business of owning real estate.
Correct. So they were interested. I got them some really good deals. I think the first 5-pack of deals, there was 3 in Woodland Hills. There was 1 in Encino and 1 in Tarzana. So they were all within a 5-mile radius of one another. These 2 brothers bought them. I got commission. I actually got them under contract. This is hilarious. I got them under contract under my name. I wholesaled them the deal. I think I made 30 grand on all 5, right? That's how far 30 grand went. Like, I was basically doing like $6,500 a pop. They were like, sweet. I mean, they were paying like, $230, $270 a door. I mean, we're just ridiculous prices. Anyways, their motto was lipstick, get in, get out fast.
Right.
So,
and you could get away with that back then. Like, you're talking at the time, it was just paint and carpet or whatever it was, get it back on the market,
Exactly. And like,
make some money.
Then, like, design was, the market was scared, right? So they were trying to get out with list prices of about 440, 450.
Yeah.
Right. To keep that conforming loan amount under 417 in LA County. Right. The non-jumbo, like, super easy to
which is now 650,000 is the conforming,
Not
even the high balance conforming. That's conforming loan amount. So it just wasn't that long ago that it was 417.
It was 417.
Yeah.
So they wanted an exit price where somebody could put down 10%.
Yep.
And still be under 417. So they had this model, and I would stop by the houses because they were giving me the listings on the back. Full boat, 2.5% commission as an agent. And, I'd stop by the houses and see how they're going. And, I've always had a thing for design. I've always had a thing for architecture. My mother raised me with arts and, flying to San Francisco to see an opera. And, I'm a little kid and I'm like, why are they speaking in German? And like, all this stuff. But like taking you to old churches and I've been to Spain and seen Gaudi and like, so I always had this thing for architecture and buildings and structures. And, these guys were putting out the most awful garb. I mean,
Right.
just no thought, no passion, no anything. It was just dollars and cents. And, for some builders, that's fine. So I was selling them, and dude, they were selling.
Right.
Like in a matter of a week, I was watching these guys make like, 80 a door.
Yeah. 80 grand a door.
80
You
grand a
gave
door
them 5 houses. You
in 5
wholesaled
months.
them the fight. You got the paper under contract yourself. You wholesaled for a small fee, and then you got the listing on the
Right.
back end after they finished the project.
Exactly. So I worked with them for about a year and a half. So
Yeah.
we went through like 15 transactions, like 15 doors.
Were
15
they, by the way, were all of those from Meredith? What was it called? Meredith Capital in Las Vegas.
Meridius Capital. They're no longer.
Meridius. They were all. Yeah.
I got them. I got maybe 10 of them through those, and then just my own appraisal. I found some on the market. Right. And
which again, you can do back then. You can get MLS inventory. That was like, you could just buy some. I mean, today, forget it, right? Like if you're buying MLS inventory, you're going to have 30 overpriced offers. Good luck being an investor, finding something that's on market already.
Inverted itself between then and now. So back then you had huge supply.
Yeah.
And nobody had any money.
Right.
Now you have no supply. And everybody seems to have a gazillion dollars.
Everybody wants is a gazillion dollars, and they all want to give you their money.
Right.
They're lending it to you, so you can go do the project. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So I looked at that. I ended up doing. I kept thinking to myself, why am I? Maybe I think I just need to. I think I need to do this myself. The only problem was, like, there's fear, there's, it's a lot of money. You lent on, so then Tyler comes into the picture, one of my friends that I met on The Amazing Race, right?
Yep.
I ended up.
So let's talk about that for a very quick second. So they know you and Tyler were on The Amazing Race together on CBS. Yeah.
Yeah, I did it with an ex-girlfriend. He did it with a mutual friend. He ended up winning the race, and this is like 2007. So this is a little bit, before before I got my real estate sales license, but he was watching. We became close friends, and he was like, he hated his job. He was, I think he was modeling pretty successfully, but just, he'd been there, done that.
Yep.
And obviously had $1 million from The Amazing Race.
Yep.
So he called me one day and he's like, let's go do a flip. And I was like, let's. Right. I need to learn how to build a house.
Yeah.
I'm willing to learn. So I found a deal. You got us the hard money. I remember
that.
Yeah. That you called me in the bottom of the 9th inning and said the lender won't do the deal, but I have somebody else. Can you be at the property?
Yep.
And some like 23-year-old kid shows up and he's like, yeah, I'll do the deal.
You and I were both kind of in the same boat back in the day, like just trying to get my business off the ground of being a hard money broker lender. Your first deal where you're going to be the flipper. And I appreciate you taking that ride with me. And both of us are like taking on this big responsibility and figuring it out together. And yeah, that's right. My lender backed out that night. And the next day I had somebody else slip in and do the deal because I had the file together, the paperwork together. They just needed to put their name on it. So
yeah, it was amazing. I think it was, I'll never forget it. It was a $335 purchase price.
Yeah.
You got the guy to lend $300.
Yeah.
And then we covered the $100,000 reno cost. This is where Tyler and I demoed the house ourselves. Okay, this is just a fix and flip, right? But we needed new kitchens and bathrooms and fireplaces, and it was ugly. New windows, new doors. But we really needed to save some money, and I needed to learn. And so 110 degrees, we're in the kitchen, we're demoing the house. It takes us 7 days straight.
I was saying it was about 2009, right? We're like somewhere around 2009, 10.
Around 2009. Yeah. 2000, like the beginning of 2009. So then, we do that. We get through it. I learn a lot. I reached out to a general contractor that I knew, older guy, been around the block, very successful. And he's like, look, I'll do your kitchen. I'll get my guys out there. They'll do your kitchen. They'll do your decks. They'll whatever. I don't have a lot of work for them. Right. Yeah. It's 2009. Like, you could get a 2x4 for $1. I mean, that's how bad housing was. So I ended up, he brought in these 5 guys, big dudes, like union framers, like guys, they're middle-aged men. They just look the part.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, like they did a great job. And then at the end of the job, you know, they got their check and they were like, look, we don't have any work. Do you have anything else? And I'm like, yeah, I'll go get another house.
Yeah.
So we kept them, we built that relationship. We got a really good electrician along the way. We just kind of picked up all of these things. We had tile guys that were so bad that we were like, okay, never see you again. Goodbye. Like,
right.
Made a lot of mistakes. I painted. My grandfather was a painter, owned a huge painting company, residential. So I actually painted the house. Right.
You put on the mask, you're getting the gun out.
Yes.
You've got the brushes.
Yeah. It was awful, actually. Like my overspray was terrible. We had to have some other guy come in and like clean up my mess ups. And but anyways, you know, we went.
But at the same time, I mean, you're learning the design aspect of all this, right? Like you're recognizing like
all brand new, right?
Right.
I'm learning like back then, like, and for a long time, cost was of the utmost importance.
Sure.
Like I would be terrified, literally terrified to spend like $1,000 on any one like fixture, right?
Right.
Faucet, light, whatever. We just didn't have the budget for it.
But I bet that you know, you being so terrified, just being so scared of that, I bet just gave that thrill though, right? Like that rush of like, this is the business.
Every time they sold and every time we were successful, and knock on wood, to this date, we have not lost $1 in real estate.
Think about that. I mean, you're now 12 years in this game doing this.
Yeah. Long time, lot of deals, a lot of flips, new construction. Like we've always been successful. Very grateful for that. Everything.
Well, I mean, let's just paint the picture one more time. 335 back in the day, 2009, 2010. You paid $335,000 for a house, and if I recall, I want to say it was Kling or one of the, was it, or
that may was have been first. That was the first bigger one.
Oh, that was the first big. Oh, right, that's right. So, but I think it was a couple of doors down off of a main drag off like Van Nuys Boulevard, if I recall.
That was the first flip. That's the one we're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that right. So, and forgive me because I'm thinking of Kling was the street afterwards, but wherever we were, this first house was a couple doors down off of main drag.
Yep.
You're doing the work yourself. 335, 100 and something grand in work. You're trying to sell it for what? What do you remember what the price was?
$545 it sold for in a few weeks. It sold pretty quick.
And you got to list it yourself because you're the agent at the time.
I got the commission.
Saving that commission.
Tyler gave me a couple of dollars along the way because I was there at 6 a.m, didn't leave till 6 p.m. But I wasn't there about the money right then. I was there to like learn the process. Right. I really liked the process.
Yep.
I realized like I need to get better at this, and okay, I'm going to make a few bucks on the commission. He's going to pay me a few bucks along the way, not a lot. He made money. He was willing to do another one and another one and another one
and another one.
And then, you know, people on your periphery, right? Friends of friends. You go to a Super Bowl party. Oh, what have you been up to? Oh, well, we're doing that. It happens. And so
it's snowballing for you. And in the essence of time, I just want to jump cut kind of like, let's go 5 years later, right? So we're talking about 2013, 2014, right? Now, REOs are still in play. Short sales are still in play, but the inventory is dwindling, as we know, right? So it's getting a little bit harder. There's a lot more investors in the game. There's a lot more money by this point funding the investors, whatever it may be. But you know, where are you? Where are you and Tyler at this point? Where are you? Like, how many flips have you done by call it 2014, 2015? And you know, what are the purchase prices and sale prices and construction costs at that point?
So 2009 to 2013 was the first big one. That was the street property, like 4,800 square feet, new construction. You know, the market was still a little bit depressed. Like we picked that up for $750. That's a 13,000 lot in Studio City.
Can you imagine what that cost just today? Like what?
Dude, it's $2 million.
It's $2 million for the lot, just the lot.
Just the dirt.
So that's not even 7 or 8 years later, maybe about 8 years later at this point. I mean, you're talking about
minimum $2 million, dude.
Yeah, $750, and you probably thought you were overpaying at that point, and now it's $2 million.
So yeah, So when we bought that, I had to convince Mark, who came along, friend of mine
Yep.
with some money. I kind of put all these people together. Mark, Tyler, Ty's wife, Anastasia,
Hmm.
has an architectural degree from NYU.
Yeah.
She came back to LA. She would throw her like a little bit here, a little bit there. No, do this, do that. I looked at her and realized like she has a lot of talent. I need to look at her. Okay, let me surround myself with people that are a little bit more talented, like
Yeah.
right? So, and I've always been good at that.
And the best of us surround ourselves with people better and smarter than us,
That's
and that's how you win.
exactly right. Like
Yeah.
I've always been the long guy, taking the entire course, right?
Yeah.
Look, right, and so everything's just been a building block from one thing to the next to the next to the next. I don't do deals with people I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't mix money with people that I don't know.
Hmm.
These days, there's lawyers involved because I don't have the time to try to look at a template contract for some guy giving me $1 million as an investment. I don't do
Yeah.
that.
Then let's talk about that for a second. I mean, there are guys now who want to throw that type of money at you, $1 million investment. And here, let's do a quick jump. Again, forgive me because I could talk to you for hours. I'd love to sit here and do this in the
Yeah,
essence of time. Like, let's just jump a couple years later now, even bigger, better of what you're doing. I mean, you now essentially have Rob Diaz design. You're not only just doing flips yourself, but you've got some consultation jobs as well, right? With your design, people are coming to you because of what
yeah,
you're able to do, flooring, windows, painting, just the idea of walking into a house and saying, and just knowing how to move it around, manipulate it, change
sure.
floor plan or add footage or whatever, right? This is where you shine.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing about the business now is that it's a one-stop shop.
Yeah.
So I have engineers. I have a guy that takes. So when we start a house, I sit at a drafting table. It's all conceptual, right?
Hmm.
It's scaled, but it's conceptual. I like drawing with a pencil. I have somebody that knows how to do CAD, but CAD to me has no life, right?
Right.
It needs to start with pen and pencil and paper. And um, I mean, now everything's changed. It's just the evolution of everything.
Yeah.
Like I like to do the same thing twice. So I'd like to have my homes like, yeah, I have a general aesthetic that I
Hmm.
that I like.
Yeah, it's a brand for Rob Diaz or Rob Diaz design, but at the same time, something different each time, right?
Correct. I've along the way, we could talk about houses like Big Laurel Terrace and Mary Ellen it's under contract, under construction now, and Mound View Place. The little Mound View Place was my
Yeah.
first 12061 Mound View Place. I did it by myself, and it was the first time that I actually looked at a job and said, "This location is so good.
Hmm.
This house, forget my budget. I don't
Yeah.
care." Right? I had been into like I'd gone to New York and looked at apparatus lighting and
Right.
rift, white oak, ceilings and English kitchens and glass subs, and I literally bought everything that I wanted for that house. That house to me was it's still my favorite house. It's only 2,000 square feet.
Mm.
Um, Leveraged myself to the gill. Maybe had $10 left in my bank account by the time I'm with it, and then paid it in 2 weeks for record. It sold
Yeah.
for, it sold for like $1,380 a foot.
Well, I think and it's important to mention this again here. I mean, there are obviously a lot of developers out there on the front end. I think what makes you so unique is because there are so many developers who are like, hey, this costs every other developer or somebody who's never done this before a couple hundred square foot to do it. I'll do it for 158 a square foot. So they're kind of making their money keeping everything suppressed on what it costs. But it's a lot of the
Right.
same conveyor belt type stuff you're talking about. You've seen these houses, especially throughout the valley or even the hills, come off the Cape Cod forever, and now it's a little bit different look, or we're going back to
Yep.
Mediterranean, whatever. But it's the same stuff over and over again, But you have really made your money on the back end of this stuff, where it's like anybody looks at this and it's like, oh, my back end after repair value on this is going to be whatever. But you're shattering these records every time because of
Yep.
what you do in your design and what
Yep.
you're putting into these houses, and exactly what you just mentioned. You're willing to go to New York and go get a certain type of lighting or a certain type of faucet or the flooring. It's
Yeah.
different. So
I, I I think that if I were to, because before I did this small Mountain View Place house that I before mentioned, like I was burnt out.
yeah.
I was literally like I had done a bunch of houses, right? And I started to get um just burnt out at just looking at the economics of it all. And I kind of, this Mountain View Place project was something where I really felt how important legacy is, right? And how important it is for me as a person
Mm-hmm.
to enjoy what I'm doing, to be passionate about it, ever evolving and learning, right? And so I did that, and it was successful, and it had to be successful because I spent a lot of money doing that, but it shows. So I looked at, maybe I didn't make as much money as the guy down the street. I probably didn't. He probably made more with that conveyor belt construction model. I know he did. It comes out faster. You have less holding costs because you're quicker. The material's cheap. Anyways, long story short, I knew that if I kept doing it, it was just a little bit of brand equity deposits along the way. And I needed to build my showroom, so to speak,
right,
in the open marketplace. Let it speak for itself. Just put my head down, continue to surround myself with people that I trust and admire, and just do my job. And
yep.
you know, I think I've been through, wow, I think maybe it's only been maybe 10 or 12 projects that are like larger in scale that I've had that model on, where it's just like, let's just build great homes. Like, it's going to cost what it's going to cost, right? But I'm continuing to learn too.
Yeah.
I've learned that, you know, we're in escrow right now on the Alex Trebek estate, which is an 1.5 acre flat in Fryman Canyon. It's a huge purchase price for us. It's like $6.5 million, and then 7 to build.
7 to build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Studio City's not seen 25 million.
Right.
We're gonna fucking go for it.
Right.
And it's only now, after, I don't know what, it's 2022. I mean, after 14 years, it's like, okay, we have some money backers now. We have guys that have deep pockets, and they're like, you know what? Because I've made these guys a lot of money over the years.
Yeah, they're willing to take that ride with you.
Exactly. Always said you're going to get what you're going to get, and lived up to that. And if it meant that I made less, that's okay. You make your bet, right? And so
$6.5 million purchase price, 7 million build on think about that, on this side of the hill. I mean, we're there now. You know, you're going to be selling a single family property in the 20s.
Yeah, because you know, it's 300 feet wide by whatever, you know, 300 deep. It's 70,000 lot or something. It's going to be amazing.
It's going to be amazing. Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, again, we can talk forever. I would love to go. So we've come up against a time. This is awesome. I truly appreciate you joining us and talking about this. RobDiazDesign.com. Again, that's RobDiazDesign.com. You got to go see Rob's entire history of what he's done and what's on there now and the type of work that he does. It really is incredible. And I hope this really came through today as what your capabilities are, again, on the back end. I mean, you know, just one of the absolute best, if not the best developer I've ever seen on the sale end of it. You know, you see a lot of guys who are great buying property, you know, just crushing heads and, oh, I bought it for this, or they're so excited about it. But yeah, but the product you put out just looks like everybody else's. Yours looks like nothing anybody has ever seen. Every time I walk into one of your houses, I'm like, this is better. How do you top it? You always do. And now you have Alex Trebek's estate under contract. You're going to close on that. You're going to build a $7 million house on that. I cannot wait, man, to see what that looks like on the back end. That's exceptional. Good for you. And I'm sure after that one, you know, sky just keeps being the limit. You could say like, that's it. That's the zenith. But no, I'm sure you'll find a way to top it. So again, man, thank you so much for joining us today. This is incredible. I don't know if you got any parting words you want to share yourself.
No, I just think anybody out there trying to do it, you can do it. You know, just got to believe.
Can do it. A testament to it. So.
Have friends like you along the way.
Right. That's right. That's all we got to do.
Spyglass.
I appreciate it, man.
All right.
We will catch up again. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Bye.